I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Some of y'all, including some white commentators on the left, don't care about black issues. I'm saying it. I'm saying it. Some of y'all don't give a fuck about us. Unless it's only class, then you guys are like, oh, well, we got to talk about it. But then when it comes to more specifically black issues, you guys don't have a damn word to say. Unfortunately, being black is also a class. If you look at these disparities, it's also division by race too. And that's by creation of the oligarchs, of the corporate dictators. Unfortunately, that's the way it is in this country. So let's start. Let's get into this. So what are we talking about today? So we have two stories. We have later in the show today, we're going to be talking about a black man that was lynched in New York State. So that is going to be the story that I really want to hone in on. But first, we're going to be talking about the end of Africa stream. This has been, it's sad. It's a sad story because I honestly think that this was a great resource, especially in speaking about the anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist, elements. The reporting that they had and reporting on what's going on in Africa. So let's get into that right now. So as many people of you know, there is a platform called Africa Stream that has been on all the social media platforms that have been informing people about the ongoings in Africa, and they have been doing it from an anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist stance. Well, unfortunately, because of the United States government, especially under the Biden regime, it's been taken down. But we're going to go and start off with first, how this started, and then we're going to continue and show the announcement thereafter. So we're going to share the screen really quick. Let's go into this. It talks about why the government is targeting African Stream. So let's get into this. This came out in October of last year. It says, let me make sure this is big enough so that everybody can read. It says on October 1st, Gmail joined a long list of services to ban independent Pan-Africanist media outlet African Stream from its platform. This followed a September 13th speech by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that escalated the information war against anti-imperialist media in Africa. Blinken accused the by name Kenya-based outlet African Stream of being a propaganda vehicle controlled by Russia. Of course. African Stream, which had millions of followers across social media platforms, including over 900,000 on TikTok and over 800,000 on Instagram, has since been banned from all Meta-owned platforms, as well as TikTok and YouTube. Blinken claimed that Russia today secretly runs the online platform African Stream across a wide range of social media platforms. Now, according to the outlet's website, he continues, Africa Stream is, and I quote, a pan-African digital media organization based exclusively on social media platforms, focused on giving a voice to all Africans, both at home and abroad. In reality, the only voice it gives is to Kremlin propagandists, end quote. For the U.S. government has, however, not provided viable evidence of these claims. So let's stop right there for a second. Of course, they haven't provided credible evidence to these claims. And in fact, let's also keep it a buck. They also made the same claims about being backed by Russia against the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, with people against Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville, which were tried in federal court here in Tampa, Florida. In fact, I actually went there. I tried to get into the courtroom, but that's a whole nother story. But I did cover it from the outside and spoke to different supporters, including third-party candidate at the time, Dr. Joe Stein. So here's the thing, right? Anything that talks, any platform that talks, including this one, that speaks about liberation, that's outside the realm of capitalism and imperialism, it's always Russian propaganda, when in reality, that is not it at all. It's being used as a tool to crush dissent. And here's my question to the people who claim to care about liberation of African people and Black people across the entire diaspora. Where were you when this was happening? Where were you when this was going down? To all the liberals that champion, that say Black Lives Matter, where were you when African Stream was being attacked by Antony Blinken of the Biden regime? Where were you? I didn't hear a peep. And now, right, I didn't hear y'all as well when they were going against the African People's Socialist Party. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna do it. Some of you white commentators and independent media did not even talk about what was going on with Omali Yeshitela. Y'all could have had him on. Look, my tiny little, my microscopic channel, my own personal channel, I had him on. But did you guys have him on? No, we had him here on RBN. Oh, yes. Me and Savvy talked to him, right? But y'all couldn't get him on? Tucker Carlson had him on. Because it was a free speech issue. And yes, some of y'all zip quiet. And now the same thing's happening in the African Stream. Where are you? Some of y'all, I'm going to keep it a buck. Some of y'all, including some white commentators on the left, don't care about Black issues. I'm saying it. Some of y'all don't give a fuck about us. Unless it's only class, then you guys are like, oh, well, we got to talk about it. But then when it comes to more specifically Black issues, you guys don't have a damn word to say. And you leave us going, we don't hear you. Why do you think RBN exists in the first place? Especially the legacy left, they don't talk about our issues. These are also class issues too. They are. But they're mum's the word, unless it gets so big, so national that they have no choice but to talk about it. Namely, George Floyd. They might have talked about Sonia Massey, right? The next segment I'll be covering, they damn sure ain't going to be talking about that. Wonder how many of them have been talking about this one, about Africa Stream. See, this is the thing. We got to talk about all of it. If you're going to talk about the issues, talk about the issue. If you're going to focus on classes, just focus on class and stop limiting it to just white working class issues. Talk about Black working class issues. Talk about Latino working class issues. Talk about Asian working class issues. Talk about all of them. But they don't. It's always just general until it's more focused on something that's Black or African. Some people may not like me for saying that, but that's the reality I see. Let's continue on. Foreign agents, a tired refrain, says the State Department statements situates the attack on African Stream among similar attacks on a variety of independent and anti-imperialist media outlets all over the world. The September 13th briefing also included attacks on Red Media, claiming that the outlet was responsible for organizing pro-Palestine protests in Germany. In the last year in particular, countless independent outlets, journalists, and activists have seen their access to key information platforms restricted, banned, or otherwise hindered. These tactics themselves aren't new. This is a long history in the United States of racist, anti-communist witch hunts, which with major legacy media like the New York Times at the forefront of these inquisitions. Since 2016, and the thoroughly debunked Russiagate conspiracy theory, any even unsubstantiated ties with so-called Russian state media have been used as a cudgel to silence voices and outlets critical of U.S. policy. More recently, the U.S. focus of U.S. information war efforts have shifted to China, revving the accusation that journalists and activists are actually secretly foreign agents of a hostile power. Here's the point. And I thought this before I read this, and I was just like, yep. The Foreign Agents Registration Act has been deployed as a legal tool to restrict the operations of certain media companies within the United States historically, and especially since 2017 when Russia Today, CCTV, Sputnik, and others were forced to register as a foreign agents, the designation not forced upon, for example, IPAC or Gulf state-funded think tanks. Here's the thing. They want to attack us for being perceived agents of a foreign state, yet you literally have an entire government that's compromised by the state of Israel. An entire government, our entire government is compromised. The president is compromised. The Senate is compromised. The House is compromised. I would say the Supreme Court's compromised. It's all compromised and ordered by a foreign state, Israel. I mean, even people like Ted Cruz confirmed it. So many people confirmed how basically IPAC, Mossad can waltz in to the Pentagon without needing security clearance and see the highest levels of classified information. You mean to tell me that they get all this, beneficial treatment, but yet you perceive, you think in your demented mind that we're being controlled by Russia, and so then you want to clamp down on us? The hypocrisy at its highest order. This is what's maddening. This is what happens when your government is ran by corporate dictators. This is what happens when they're ran by oligarchs. Rules for thee, but not for me. Let's finish up. As the US presidential campaign approaches, the ground is being laid for a second Russiagate or perhaps Chinagate, depending on the outcome of November. Earlier this year, Rossiya Segodina, a parent company of Russia Today, was hit with additional U.S. sanctions. 2 RT employees were indicted last month under FARA, which continues this chilling trend. These legal actions are setting the precedent that can and will be extended to all types of media critical to U.S. government anywhere in the world. So, this is one of the, biggest issues that has been talked about against outlets like African Stream. So unfortunately now, what we feared has came to pass. So we're going to get into that right now, because this is also deeply troubling. Because while, we look at African Stream, we also, it's not missed upon us here at RBN that we also have to look at how we're being viewed, how we're being looked at by the powers that be. especially as we get bigger. This is from African Stream on Twitter. Let's listen, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Hi everyone, I'm very sorry to announce that African Stream is closing down. I know this will be disappointing to many of you who have supported us from the beginning. It's disappointing to us too. We made a genuine effort to continue after the attacks by the US State Department last September, but unfortunately we couldn't after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken called us Kremlin propagandists. We were removed from YouTube within 2 days, Instagram within a week, and TikTok within 2 weeks. Additionally, we were demonetized on X. Across all platforms, we had over 2 million followers, and all 2 million were passionate about seeing our beloved continent reported on properly and fairly. After the attacks, our ability to generate income was killed. We were unable to travel to many of the essential locations we had planned, and we were barely able to continue running the business that so many of you have come to love. I'm not saying all this so that you feel sorry for us. You shouldn't. We take immense pride in our accomplishments at African Stream. We started this because we were passionate about accurately reporting on the most important continent in the world and doing so from a pan-African and anti-imperialist perspective.
So let's stop there for a second, because I want to add something to this. Now that we're under a new regime, the Trump regime, where was Trump to reverse this? Where was Marco Rubio to reverse this? Because apparently they're the opposition, right, to the Biden regime. If they're actually the opposition to the Biden regime, they should have lifted all these things and then said, African Stream, you're not bothering nobody. You see that bipartisanship? You see it now? It's always okay when it comes to screwing you over, but when it comes to actually going up against imperialism, then that's when they're united. I don't see Marco Rubio going, you know what Blinken said is BS, it's inaccurate. Africa Stream, they're fine. We don't have to worry about them. But no, Rubio agrees with Blinken. Biden and Trump are cut from the same cloth. So guess what? You really think that they're opposition to each other? Baby, if you think that Biden and Trump were opposition to each other, I'll have a diamond-encrusted golden bridge over an active volcano to sell you. Prime real estate. If you thought that they were actually opposition to each other, be for real. I just want to make that point, because the thing is, like, a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, that was the Biden regime, and so they're against free speech. And yet Trump didn't reverse any of that. Free speech warrior, my ass. All right, let's continue on.
We reported from Benin, Nigeria, Ghana, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Liberia, and South Africa, as well as many other important locations throughout our continent and beyond, which were often neglected and misreported by the mainstream media. Due to our work, we were invited to conferences and workshops in Iran, Cuba, Tanzania, Venezuela, and Eritrea. We wanted to make an impact, and alhamdulillah, we definitely did that. Before us, there were very few places on Instagram where you could find educational and informative news about the continent. Today, there are numerous brilliant Pan-African pages and new ones emerging every day. The space is now infinitely richer, and that's not because of us, but because of you, the audience. You show that there's an appetite for African-centered news delivered by radical young Africans. We had the best followers assembled on any page, the richness of the discussion in the comment section, the feedback, the stories you asked us to cover in the DMs, the guests you introduced us to. None of this would have been possible without your contribution. Finally, I'd like to thank my team, a group of 20 and 30-year-old Africans, one 40-year-old and one 45-year-old. Shout out to Ken and Jeffrey. managed to catch the attention of the world's biggest, most powerful empire. And for that, we can hold our heads high. I'm sorry if you feel let down. We gave it our all. I moved with my wife and newborn baby to Nairobi, Kenya to set up African Stream. My eldest son was born a couple of weeks after we launched. We gave it our all, but now it's time for you all to step up and pick up the baton. Keep talking about our continent, keep posting about our continent, and keep exposing the role of imperialism in our continent. We are all African Stream. Forward ever, backwards never.
So that's the news. They are basically now over. All because of the powers that be, the corporate dictators, do not want the truth told about the continent of Africa. They do not want the truth told about what these imperialist powers are doing and extracting the resources and destabilizing these nations in order to be able to keep Africans subservient to Western interests. And so this is why channels like RBN, right? And there may be other channels that, that are out there, particular ones like African Diaspora News Channel, right? We may not have complete agreement on everything, but when it comes to talking about issues in Africa, we're talking about it. And the thing is like we have to, because who else is doing it? Who's talking about what's going on in Niger? Who's talking about what's going on in Mali? Who else is talking about what's going on in South Africa? Who's talking about what's going on in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, right? Who else is talking about what's going on in Eritrea or Egypt, right? Or Kenya or Rwanda or Algeria, Morocco? You know what I'm saying? Like, who else is talking about this? From the Gold Coast to the Ivory Coast, like, who is talking about it? Who's talking about it to the Horn of Africa? The thing is, like, this is absolutely necessary because we're literally talking about the richest continent in the world. Africa is Fort Knox of the earth. And if you don't think that we can't, baby, we have to talk about it. And by the way, Africa's going through a population boom. Everywhere else in the world, they're seeing population decline, except for Africa. Africa's seeing a population growth. So this is why it's so important for outlets like African Stream to maintain. If you have other outlets that are educating people about the continent of Africa, good, especially if they're educating from an anti-imperialist perspective. Good. Support them. Support independent media whenever and wherever you can, because ultimately the West's goal is to silence them. They want to silence us. And once the truth goes out, so then lives are next. Human lives are next after the truth goes out. This is why they don't want us to know what's going on. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of what's been going on in Congo and Sudan, that made the rounds on TikTok. And just like people were sharing stories about what was going on in Gaza, people were sharing stories about what was going on in Sudan and in Congo. Just like that. And now it's time for us to ramp it up. Let's ramp up. Ooh, Lord. It's time for us to ramp that up. So I'm sad to see African Stream go because they were a great resource, but I hope to see other outlets emerge, and I hope that you guys continue to support media outlets like those of us here at RBN. Because if, you know, if we can't talk about it, who else will? So I hope African Stream can return. My best wishes to all the people there, in solidarity with all of you guys at African Stream. You guys have done phenomenal work.